My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in and you're a fan of Arsenal, you'll be very pleased because they've just taken a lead against Spurs. Nick looks nonplussed by that news, so maybe we'll swiftly move on to the women's tennis.
Oh, I'm very pleased with that news. As far as I'm concerned, anyone but Manchester City winning the Premier League is good news.
With that Arsenal and non-Man City win the league news tick, let's move on to people that have had successful weeks. For a start, anyway, in particular, Jessica Pegula winning title in Dubai. I saw large parts of her latter stages of this tournament, and I did think that she grew into it, and I did feel as though she had a great chance in the final. And although Svitolina came in it with a 4-0 record in WTA 1000 finals, am I right?
Something like that, yeah.
She was unbeaten, I think, in finals of 1000s anyway.
Yeah, it's been a while since she's reached one though, so very
Indeed.
different era when she was last reaching them. But yeah, she's got a very good record in them before kind of COVID and before having a child.
Let's start with Pegula. I think is it fair to say, or do you understand what I mean when I say she continues to defy the odds and maybe the doubters that think this will be the year that she starts to sort of fall down the rankings? Because every time we start thinking that, and maybe it's me who's thinking that, she ends up defying those notions and actually possibly reaches greater heights.
Yeah, I think she's getting better. Honestly. I think obviously she was a bit wobbly at the start of last year, but kind of pulled it back. I can see what you're saying because age is not on her side, and I should know because I'm the same age as her. So, and for a tennis player, being in your early 30s is, the clock is really ticking on how long your career can last. And so we are waiting for that drop off, but only because of that. Because game wise, she is getting better. And I was thinking about her performance in the final, in that Pegula's positive attributes to her game, her ability to dictate when given the opportunity. Like if she has the opportunity to take control of a match, she will do it. Quite often when we think of Pegula, we're comparing her to the leading force in the WTA, Sabalenka, Swiatek, Rybakina. And quite often she finds it hard to take control of matches against them and has to make it a real battle and make it a contest to beat them. But in this case, she very much took control of the final. She was the one with the great serve count. She was the one able to deploy winners and execute those really, really well. She's not just a bastion of consistency. I think because it doesn't come across as big hitting on the screen, it kind of flatters, it kind of deceives a bit of how strong she is. But having seen her in person at Wimbledon a couple of times, she really cracks that ball, and we saw that time and again. And yeah, you're saying she definitely picked up confidence, she picked up momentum as the tournament went on, and was deploying those weapons really, really well. I think she got herself out of trouble pretty well against Anisimova. I thought that the way that match was going, Anisimova was going to win that, but I think.
Did you ever have confidence in Anisimova though? So Anisimova was up a set and a break on two separate occasions, 2-love and then 4-3. But I don't know if I was ever sure that she was. Listen, 4-3. Yeah, I'm backing Anisimova probably to win that match because she's going to have a few goes at it. But once that 4-all situation happens, And in particular, of course, when Pegula wins that second set by winning, and then she goes on a run, I think, of winning, I don't know, 6 out of 7 games, something like that.
She
And
plays well.
yeah,
I think Anisimova has a Pegula problem.
Yeah,
because I think there's something about Pegula's ability to defuse and redirect that Anisimova struggles with compared to other players who play like she does. So Sabalenka can get over it and work around it. She's got quite a wide toolkit. Rybakina, I think, is in a similar state as well. Anisimova hasn't learned this yet. I think she will. In terms of confidence in her during that semi-final, I was pretty confident she was going to win because look just how in the groove she was, but then she lost that groove during the second set, and that allowed Pegula back into the match. And credit to Pegula, she took that opportunity, dug in, and turned the match in her favor. And I think she worked really hard to do that. But I think with Anisimova, and being confident with it, setting the break, I was feeling pretty good about her chances given how she'd been playing up to that point, but it needs to rely on her continuing to do that. But don't take anything to Pegula. That was the one match where I think Pegula got a little bit fortunate with her opponent's level, but worked it in her favor. And then she didn't give Svitolina any opportunity in that final. And now it's her 4th 1,000 title and her first one off North American soil. Yet to win one in the US itself. Yeah, because she's won Canada twice and she's won Guadalajara when that was a 1,000. So Canada and Mexico. So it's the first time outside North America that she's won a title at this level. So she actually needs to win one on American soil now. But it's nice
if you count Guadalajara. And by the way, I'm not disagreeing entirely, but if you count Guadalajara as North America, it's a debate for geographical experts. But yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, let's face it, until they make Central America a continent.
Yeah, I bought. Yeah, no, I bought a. Well, funny enough, I bought a Lonely Planet for Central America very expensively about 15 years ago at the airport. I think it was Gatwick. And I landed in Mexico City, and I couldn't find any hostel recommendations. In fact, I couldn't find Mexico City in the book. And I was like, wow, the biggest city in the whole of Central America. And yeah, I then looked at one point after a long time on the back cover, I saw the regions it covered, and it didn't cover the northern parts of Mexico, which according to Lonely Planet, they included as North America. So yeah, I don't have a huge vested interest in it, but I also know what you mean, especially when you talk about tennis landscapes. We kind of end at Mexico, don't we? Until we sort of talk about South America, don't we? Really, because there's no tournaments, of course, in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, etc.
Yeah, at least not of above challenger level, which I think there are some kind of around the sort of Central American region.
Do you think Pegula, by the way, is drastically underrated by a lot of fans?
Yes.
I know where Kiddit's coming from.
I do. I think she is. I think a lot of people kind of dismiss her as the kind of nearly person who's not quite there, but I think she's one of the leaders of the chasing pack. And if you look at her results recently, even if you go back as far as the start from the US Open last year, it was semi-final of the US Open, plays the match of her life to beat Arina Sabalenka in Wuhan and make the final. Does really well at WTA finals, makes the semis there. She makes the semis of the Australian Open,
semis in Brisbane, I think, as well. Although semis in Brisbane is probably not her proudest run, but yeah.
Yeah. She's been in the mix for these tournaments for
and she's always close. Think about the Sabalenka US Open semi-final last year, and Sabalenka also. It's never a 1 and 2 loss for her. It's never a 2 and 3, really.
I can't remember the last time I saw Pegula get demolished. Actually.
In a big match, anyway.
Yeah.
There might have been an early round when she was feeling off color or something, but
yeah, I think we were all a bit surprised when she went out Wimbledon early last year.
Yeah, that was a real shocker for me because did she win? She won Bad Homburg, I think, beating Swiatek in the final. Right. I think her grass court game is very much there and is up there with the elite players on the tour. Maybe just, I think, when Rybakina is absolutely at her top level, I think maybe she's the best grass court player in the world. But yeah, I was shocked by that first round loss. Did you go to see that match, or am I getting confused?
Yeah, I saw the end of it. Yeah, I saw Cocciaretto do it, and fair play, Cocciaretto was absolutely peaking. And by the way, watch out for Cocciaretto because she keeps popping up on our radar this year. She's won Hobart. She made the quarters in Doha, and then followed it up with really gritty qualifying run to get to Dubai, and then pulled out anyway. But yeah, Cocciaretto is a dangerous player. anyway. But yeah, that was a surprise, and I agree with you. I think Pegula, if you remember, she was like 5-1? She was 5 something up in the deciding set against Vondrousova in the quarters the year Vondrousova won it.
Yeah, double break anyway, for sure.
Double break. And then I
Seen one
think something
before,
happened.
but-
There was a break and that killed all the momentum.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's
I think the roof closed or something, right?
Yeah, and there was a good chance, I think, in that situation that had she got it done, she would have won Wimbledon in 23, I think, because Svitolina was kind of gassed by the semis. And I think seeing how Pegula had the Svitolina today could have been an easy win. And then Jabeur wasn't right in the final. So there was an opportunity there, I think, for Jessica Pegula to win that 2023 Wimbledon. So who knows? Maybe Wimbledon will be an opportunity for her if she can get through the early rounds, because she's not been able to the last couple of years. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, Pegula is someone who's always in the mix and always at the forefront of, like, no, she'll capitalize if there's an opportunity. Give her an opportunity, she maximizes it, and she's so good at doing that. I genuinely think also US Open, she's a contender. If you think about the last couple of years, final, semi-final, only Sabalenka stopping her. If Sabalenka has a bad year at the US Open, Pegula's got a real shot at that title.
By the way, I think I made a tiny error, but it's the point still stands. I think I said that Pegula was really close with Sabalenka in Australia this year. Of course, it was against Rybakina, but the point still stands. She never gets beaten easily in big semis. Yes, they're sometimes straight sets, but that's super tight. US Open final of 2024 as well, really close. 3-set epic, which was a 50-50 with Sabalenka in Australia. By the way, is Svitolina, is she becoming the new Pegula, as in, like, incredibly solid, also similar age, early 30s? In fact, I think Pegula's birthday might be tomorrow, or it might be the day after.
Yes.
But anyway, Svitolina, 31 years old, going to turn 32 in September, same age bracket, super, super consistent, pretty good across all surfaces, but I would probably go hard, grass, clay, maybe in that order. But it's a small gap. Yeah. It's not like for me, Rybakina, there's a big jump from grass to clay, for example. Or who else would you say? I mean, Swiatek, I guess there's a big. Well, I would have said a big gap between clay and grass as well. But I guess national Wimbledon, we can't make that. Who else would you say? Like, yeah, that well, okay, she's a lot further down the rankings, but Alex Ayala hard court is going deep in 1000s, but not going to happen on a clay court anytime soon. And yet Svitolina is sort of, she's almost maybe she's the next person to be classed as, she's super solid, semi-finals, finals. I'm just looking at her recent results, semi-final in Australia, final in Dubai. So she won, of course, the 500, was it in New Zealand, or was it 250, I think?
It was a 250 in Auckland.
Yeah. But I'm thinking about 1000s in particular, although, of course, she did have an unbelievable record pre-COVID, but I'm talking about post-COVID Svitolina, who, by the way, I do think she is a different player now, right, to how she was before.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. She's got herself bigger weapons. Before, Svitolina's game's always, still is, very defense-based in its foundation, fundamentally. But she's added some weapons to it in recent years, especially using the time for the off-season when she was on maternity leave. And I think she's got this ability to turn defense into attack that she probably... It's certainly much more effective now. The problem is that the field she's dealing with is so different to how it was before she went off, because the top of the game was very, very competitive, whereas now you've got this group of players who've raised the level at the top and kind of run and started to pull away. And I'm thinking obviously Sabalenka, Svitolina, and Rybakina. And
but I also think 4, 5, 6 in the world down to 30 or 35.
So close.
They're all capable of winning a 1000.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I would completely agree with that. I think they're all capable of doing that. They're all capable of pulling off an upset. 100%. The gap is not that big. And Svitolina, I think, well, she's proved it. She beat Gauff in that absolute epic.
Yeah, by the way, I want to get onto this match now, okay? Svitolina obviously fell short in the final, but this match, I didn't see the third set, okay? Which I know is... Yeah, I saw the tie break. I saw the third set. I saw the second set. And so I could see that it was going to be, or was becoming, a wild match. It needed to be a close third set, I guess, to round that off, and it was. But also the way some of the match points and set points were being saved or won was also spectacular at the end of that second set. So, yeah, thoughts on this encounter?
I mean, it was a brilliant encounter. I think it was as close to stalemate as you can see in tennis, I think, in terms of where the rallies were going. Like, you felt like either of them could win a point when they were getting into rallies. And they weren't pushing either. They were really trying to find their way through the other person or try, because they knew they couldn't wear them down in the same way. Like, they really demonstrated their athleticism and their physicality. And what also, but I was also impressed by, they were able to deploy some weaponry to try and take control. Neither of them really were that bothered by it. And every point you felt like was up for grabs. Certainly at the start of the third set, each point could have gone either way. There was a lot of close juice games. It settled down a bit in the middle of the third set and they were holding a bit more comfortably. And then the end of it was this massive crescendo. Like, Svitolina serving at 4-all had to fend off break point opportunities from Gauff. And it was literally each point was going like they would just pegging each other back the entire time. Svitolina eventually gets over the line, saves break points. And having got through that, I think that switched the pressure to Gauff, and she was the one who ended up kind of crumbling in that situation. But even then, it wasn't really a collapse. It was
in that second set. Every single point felt like, or certainly every single game, but also when the points got bigger and bigger, whoever needed it most got it. Now, that's not saying that both weren't desperate, but whoever needed to win that point won it in a way, and it carried on to into the third set, I would say.
And that's what made that tiebreak so special. I mean, it was just we were watching the points rack up in that tiebreak going, good grief, I don't know which one of them's going to win it. I didn't want either. I didn't want anyone to win the tiebreak. I wanted them to get it keep going. I was almost disappointed that Gauff won it because I was like, oh, that means there's tiebreaks over now. But I did feel like Gauff had the more opportunity, so I'm quite glad that she won it because I think it would have been absolutely gutting if she hadn't. But yeah, that was it was just so good seeing how close they were, and that's what happens when you get a real quality clash between two top 10 players. And I think there's a lot of positives for both players to take away from this match. Like Svitolina obviously winning it, she's now won against a top 4 player twice. Now she seems to have she's got a couple of wins against Gauff. That's going to be big for her. She's trying to kind of keep herself on the top 10 now. She's broken back in. And I think she's got the talent to do that. It's going to come down to her physicality and her age, a bit like we're talking about with Pegula. How long on the clock has she got? And I think we've seen her battling with Swiatek and Sabalenka in recent years and making their lives hard. I can see a scenario where she does that again. And I think she'll be buoyed by the possibility that she could. Gauff, on the other hand, I think this is a match that kind of she needed to kind of steady the ship, regardless of the outcome, because I think there was a lot of questions about the kind of losses that she's had, and this one was.
I think those 3 matches, by the way, the way she turned the Mertens match around. Sorry, Nick, but the way she turned the Mertens match around, and then also obviously was overpowered and just a couple of streets ahead, let's say, of Ayala in that encounter, and then the way she performed here, I think. And look, you can see her smiling at that exchange. And I know, by the way, what I'm trying to say is probably more of a question, but I also have my thoughts on this. Where are we at with Coco Gauff right now on the 22nd of February?
Better than I was on the what was it last week?
When she was down to Mertens. When during that match with Mertens, and if that looked like it could well have been a loss. In fact, it did look like it could well have lost. Yeah, better than it was 5 days ago for me.
But then she handled that really, really well. Like, I think I was thinking about the last WTA Weekly episode we did, like 50 on the 15th, when we were talking about Gauff having lost to Cozzaretto.
I saw that match.
The Mertens looked like it was going to be a similar sort of loss, and Gauff did really well to turn it around. And I think this is the kind of match that you see. Gauff doesn't go down without a fight normally, so it's very pleasant to see her in this situation. I think this is a sign that she's on the up. This is usually the kind of match she has when she kind of gets herself back in the mix, right at the top, at the front. So Indian Wells should be good for her. She's been to the semi-finals here before, and she's not had a great history there, but slower hard court could go either way for her. But with an American crowd, that kind of and that sort of environment, if she's peaking at the right time, then Indian Wells, but probably more likely Miami, you're gonna see Gauff be a real contender, I'd say. Maybe this is too early to say, but I just see this pattern with her. Like, this is the kind of match that shows that she's kind of coming back into things and getting
The
some
old
good
issues are
results.
still there a little bit, though, Nick, right? And I mean, she had 12
Yeah,
double
but
faults.
she played through.
against-
She's always played through those issues. She's always played through
Yeah.
those issues. I don't really.
What did you make of the comments that she made to Gavin during this Svitolina match? Funny enough, where she said, "I've been doing whatever you told me for the last 6 months, and it's still not working."
I didn't hear that.
Okay, so I think that's added to it. Now that's her obviously in a not a great moment at one point in the pretty deep in this match. Well, it wasn't in the first set; it was in the second or the third. I mean, I've seen it. I didn't. I've seen it. Highlighted quite a few times on social media, and you can hear her words pretty audibly. So 12 double faults in this one. I think she hit 8 against Alex Ialo. And in fact, funny enough, everything else pretty much worked very well, including the forehand, I would say, against Ialo. There's a couple of moments maybe, but 0-2, she just was a step above her. And I think it's a terrible matchup for Alex as well. But anyway, what I will say, though, is that I even said after that match, 8 double faults is still quite a lot for what was a match of about an hour long. It was only 6, 12, 14 games, so 7 service games, I guess. That's still more than one on average per game. And there weren't many juice games in there either, by the way. So it did feel like a lot. So, yeah, I think it can be improved. But one thing the biggest thing that bothers me, or worries me, I should say, rather than bothers me, is actually the nature of them. The second serves. It's not like she's hitting 2 serves and they're just going out. And by the way, her second serve is so good, and that's something that Iala couldn't deal with. And Iala, I've been watching Iala pretty close up for about 11 months now. I've never seen her respect a second serve as much as she did Coco Gauff's. In other words, she's played, she's played Ostapenko, she's played Madison Keys, she's played Iga Swiatek a couple of times, and so on and so forth. And she's played some pretty big names in the sport. But I've never seen her stand that far behind the baseline for a second serve. In fact, I don't see her stand behind the baseline on a second serve normally. But Coco Gauff, she did, because she knows that when she lands it. But anyway, what I want to say about Coco in the second service is when she was missing those, when she misses them, sometimes they're like, oh dear, they're sort of going into the bottom of the net. And we always remember those images of Sabalenka, don't we, from about 3 years ago, when some of her serves were just wild,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I see what you're saying. Does it need fixing? Yes, because you can't maintain a career on multiple double faults. It is going to expose you again in certain matches, especially when in the matches where you're not playing well in other areas. It's going to expose you against the top players. But here's what I mean. Here's what I think. I think the double fault thing right now for Coco Gauff is only holding her back from being consistently a contender and winning titles on a regular basis and being a number 1 contender.
She probably goes from 1 slam a year to 2, possibly.
Yes, but she still wins. She'll still win a slam.
Oh,
She'll still win a slam despite that. And that's the thing, is that's why I won't press the panic button on Coco Gauff, because I know that she always wins despite it. She will find a way to catch fire in a tournament at least once a year, probably multiple times in a year, and work through it and play through it and find a level that will get the job done and potentially even outperform other top players in that tournament. So what would kind of, let's put this into some perspective here. Gauff isn't going to go backwards. She's going to stay where she is, and she's going to keep racking up points. She's going to keep getting wins. She's going to get titles. She's going to win more Grand Slams. I was thinking about this, like, Gauff is 21. She's got another 40 Grand Slams to play at least in her career. I would be shocked if she didn't win another one or multiple of them.
She'll be number 1 in the world at some point in her career. I just don't know when.
Yeah, like, we haven't seen peak Coco Gauff yet, and maybe peak Coco Gauff comes when she fixes double fault. Maybe it'll come when she fixes something else, or whether she unlocks something else that we haven't thought about with her game. What we're talking about right now is what's holding her back from pushing forward. It's not holding her back from any success at all, and I think that's where I'm at with Coco Gauff. Is I'm waiting for her to catch fire again, because I know that that's what's going to happen. So 100%, I think we'll be seeing Coco Gauff contending for titles. And I think this kind of result suggests that we're going to be back into that sort of season for her. And definitely once we get into clay, because that's one of her strongest times of year. being the French Open champion, I think she came very close to. She was Madrid and Rome finalist, so she should win one of those tournaments at some point in her career. I think we'll be seeing Gauff contending for some trophies this year, and I think she's starting to come into peak at around about that time. It's green shoots, it's not full plants yet, but
Sure.
it's positive signs in my opinion.
Amanda Anisimova. I heard lots of people during the Australian Open, understandably so, actually, in terms of the way she was playing for the first 3 or 4 rounds, going, wow, this is even by her electric standards over the previous 6 months, she's playing even better than before. She then runs into Pegula, and on the eve of that match in Australia, I think I tipped an Anisimova win. Mert was like, hold on, John, the matchup, blah, 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 blah. Mert was right, John was wrong. And so when it came into their semi-final in Dubai, obviously just a couple of days ago, I was like, yeah, I didn't like what I saw in Australia, how that match was panning out. Even though Anisimova was down on the scoreboard in the second set as well, and she fought back into it. Normally that means they have that momentum in the tiebreak. I never felt, this is Australia I'm talking about, I never felt that tiebreak was going to go anything else than Pegula's, and she won, I think, 7-1. Now, obviously, this match was a lot closer, and I did miss the first set when, of course, she was playing so well. So I joined at the beginning of the second set. I see that she's won, obviously, 7 of the first 8 games. But then what I watch is kind of what I've seen before, but I've not seen the previous 7 or 8 games. I also saw Anisimova, was it Andreeva, where she came through a tight match, maybe in the previous round in Dubai? Andreeva as well is in a bit of a sticky spell of form at the moment as well. I think it was Andreeva she played.
It was Andreeva. It was a good match.
Yeah. And Andreeva as well. Andreeva kind of went through some of the moments that Anisimova was going to go through 24 hours later against Pegula, as in, like, it was there for Andreeva. She came out the blocks flying and was up 6-2 after the first set, and unfortunately got beaten to the second set. And then when it gets super, 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 super tight, I just thought Anisimova was going to have a bit too much for Andreeva. She did. And then it was the other way around against Pegula. It's not a what, you know, we talk about green shoots of recovery for Coco, and I think that they're good words from you, but it's not panic stations. But we've not quite seen over the last few weeks, sort of including that loss to Pegula in Australia, maybe quite the level that we were used to in 2025, which I think in some ways culminated in that excellent match she had against Sabalenka at the WTA finals.
It's not far off.
I'm just looking at the sort of 3 losses in recent weeks, or two of them in particular. The Pegula loss in Australia, and then also the loss she had to Pliskova in the first round in Qatar, and then the latter stages of that match against Pegula. And then there was a huge racket smash, I think, from her as well after that, which was a bizarre one, actually, because it wasn't one done on the court. She kind of did it into her bag, so it didn't really crush the racket too much. So maybe we didn't hear about it as much, but yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's the thing, is that, like, Anisimova is playing really well in the opening rounds, and she's getting through, and she's efficiently getting herself into the mix, and that's what happens when she gets into the mix. Now, I don't know what happened in Qatar, but look, I didn't see the Pliskova match, so I don't know how locked in Anisimova was, but the Australian Open and Dubai, she was looking pretty good. She lost to Kostic in Brisbane. Kostic was on fire that tournament, and it's a shame that she's still injured. Anisimova, I think, is like, I'm just waiting. Like, I don't think she's that far off, because she's now not losing to anybody. She's losing, Qatar aside, to title contenders and key names. And where I see Anisimova going is, like, it's just that extra step of locking in towards the end, like she did at the US Open, like she did in Beijing, like she did in Wimbledon, like she did at the WTA finals. And if she's going to lose, it's going to be a tough match to a good player like a Sabalenka. So I still think that's the case. I think there's some matchup things with Pegula that are skewing
5-0 now.
a little bit. Yeah, she struggles with what Pegula does, which we mentioned earlier in the show. So I think I need to see Anisimova losing a few more tough matches against other top players before I kind of say, okay, she kind of dropped back a bit from potentially being in that mix with them. But at the moment, in terms of on the paper results, I'm still going to say that we are still watching Anisimova for big title contention, being in the mix for that with your WTA Big Four, and for me, it is the WTA Big Four plus Anisimova until she kind of wins
By the
a
way,
Grand Slam.
despite all the decimations through injuries and withdrawals that we'll come to in a moment, that semi-final lineup looked totally normal, looked totally stacked. I mean, okay, it's a semi-final lineup, so when you say stacked, but we know how sometimes semi-final lineups can be a bit random and stuff, especially, if you took out, even if you just took out Alcaraz and Sinner, whatever semi-final lineup in the ATP side, it would be like, well, someone's got a chance here. Whereas, you had Svitolina, a multiple winner of 1000s. You had Coco Gauff, a Grand Slam winner. You had Anisimova, a Grand Slam finalist and a 1000 winner as well. And who's the other semi-finalist that I'm missing? Pegula, I guess, who's a multiple slam finalist. She's made
one,
or at least she's made one slam final, and obviously 1000s and so on. But so these are just, and also on a hard court as well, etc., etc. So there were, despite losing 20 odd players in for one reason or another, and probably 10 of them were top 30, top 40 players. Despite all of that, we still had a stacked semi-final lineup.
It's all top 10 players, and as you said, right. We weren't going to see a new 1000 champion either, as we have done in Dubai the last couple of years with Paulini and Andreeva. We kind of the top players kind of locked in and gave us a good lineup and definitely gave us some good matches. If you look at Anisimova, definitely Pegula and Svitolina and Gauff definitely did, and I think the Anisimova and Andreeva match was somewhat overlooked as a good one as well in the quarters. I thought, we talk about kind of things falling apart and the draw not being quite what we hoped, but what we got was still pretty good, and it's a sign of sort of things being a bit stable, a bit more stable at the moment.
I like it because we go into tournaments with 10 or 15 possible winners.
Exactly, especially in the 1000s.
Yeah, especially 1000s. Yeah, when it comes to slams, a lot less, and it depends on the surface and form and all this. But yeah, we went into that 1000, and I think you could easily make a case for 10 different winners. Now, of course, some of those ended up withdrawing or getting injured or whatever and falling sick, but it was such a difficult one, and it's really difficult. I think the first leg of the Sunshine Double, so Indian Wells, I think it'll be a little easier to predict. Because it's sort of the fifth slam, and I think the conditions suit certain players and don't suit others, and there's certain players there that always seem to do well and certain players that don't. I think Miami will probably slip a bit more towards what we've seen in terms of the randomness of some of these other 1000s, but that is to come. One more thing I want to ask you on regarding at least what things that occurred sort of on the court or perhaps more in the stadium. Do the Alex Ayala fans annoy you, Nick?
No. Why would they? It's a bit like asking me, do Iga Swiatek fans annoy me? Or, because, they can get pretty vocal. Do the Ukrainian fans, whenever the Svitolina Kostyuk play, annoy me? Do the Zheng Qinwen fans annoy me? Because they can get very, very vocal as well.
The Boisson fan as well at the French Open last year, you could throw in, or any French, player really at the French Open.
Yulia Putintseva was not happy with Zainab Somner's fans in.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about that.
No, I don't. This is what happens. You've got someone from a country, and you want to support them, and it's part of it, especially when they're the biggest athlete. I mean, let me put it this: let's go back to this is real tennis nerds memories, but let's talk about one of your favorite Wimbledon finals of all time, John, which is on the men's side, not the women's, which is Goran Ivanisevic against Pat Rafter.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah. I'm hoping that you've got we've got some.
No, I don't have a picture of that final. No, sorry, but I thought I already had this one prepped. But go on.
This one's still relevant. So that final. One of the things that made that final was the atmosphere of the Croats and the Australians having been able to come because it was on a Monday and it was all last minute tickets and everyone just sort of flooded in. And that was one of the things that made that final special and memorable, apart from how tight it got.
People's Monday.
That would be That would be like what happened with lots of Alex Ayala fans showing up.
Or the People's Final, maybe. Yeah, I
The
know.
People's Final, yeah. So, like, why, when we get really vocal crowds, it makes the atmosphere incredible. So why would you not want that? Like, Alex Ayala fans or Filipino fans, let's make it very clear, like, where who's where all these people are coming from, and rightly so, to support their player, to support their national hero. So why wouldn't you do that? It adds to the experience of tennis. It adds to everything else. Like, why you get people calling things out for anyone who's particularly wound up. It's not an Alex Ayala specific thing. So can we please not pick on the Filipinos? It's fine. And actually, I can't wait for a big final between Alex
By the way,
Ayala and
Nick, this is not going anywhere. This is not going anywhere soon, because this Filipino diaspora is pretty much everywhere. I mean, tennis turns up in big cities generally. I'm thinking London, I'm thinking Paris, I'm thinking parts of the US, New York in particular. That there might be some tournaments, and I do think that there might be a larger diaspora. And I checked out some of the diasporas in the Middle East, and there's some pretty big ones there. So I don't see it going anywhere soon. All right, listen, let's move on to a different topic. I'll come to that in a moment. Okay, let's move on to what I want to talk to you about at the beginning, or we were talking about just before we went on air, which was some of these retirements and injuries and withdrawals that we saw as we went into the tournament. I'm just going to highlight some of those. Hopefully I've got their narratives correct as well, as we see some juices and fruit there. Very healthy diet that we have for Nick Carter. I thought I saw some fruit or some juice. You look at me like go on, tell me.
I don't know what it is you saw, because
I thought I saw some fruit or some juice.
You've probably seen some fruit and nuts, probably like raisins and cashew nuts.
Okay, fruit.
Dried fruit and stuff. I don't know what else you saw, but yeah, that'll do. Try and keep yourself healthy.
We are on the topic of players' health in many respects, so it's semi-relevant. Swiatek and Sabalenka. I don't know the official reasons, but I think fatigue was. I remember Swiatek put out a statement. I don't think Sabalenka did, but I think both are basically, basically calculating their year.
Schedule.
Sorry, say again?
Swiatek's was just simply change of schedule.
Change of schedule, yeah. Sabalenka might have cited fatigue, but both of them are managing their year, and that year, by the way, from Australia until Miami is containing a Grand Slam or 1,000 maybe every week except for 2, something like that. Next week is one of those weeks without a 1,000. But I think we're basically starting or ending a 1,000 or a Grand Slam. And I think we had 2 1,000 back to back. Before that, we had a week, and before that was the Australian Open. So I think we're basically looking at 2 or 3 months.
That's anyway, if you include Monte Carlo, right, on the ATP side.
No. I'm saying till Miami, end of Miami.
Miami, okay,
yeah. So end of Miami is just non-stop elite women's tennis as well. We're not talking about 250s or 500s either. So we're talking about you need to be here and you need to be at the top of your game. And you're sometimes going to be playing every day, but obviously sometimes every second day, especially at slams. So Swiatek and Sabalenka managing their calendars. Mukova, Sakkari, and Mboko, I believe all pulled out on the eve of the tournament. And of course, they all got to the semi-finals or further after an exhausting week at the previous 1,000 in Abu Dhabi. Was that the week before? No, because Abu Dhabi is a 500. In Qatar, Doha, right?
Yeah, Doha.
Yeah. So they all had exhausting weeks there and felt that another week back to back, plus with the sunshine double on the horizon, etc., etc. We had Osaka and Keys. I think had pulled out quite a while ago. They have lingering injuries, I guess, post Australian Open. I remember Osaka actually pulling out of the Australian Open with an injury before her match, and then that's that. Qin Wencheng, when did she pull out?
Before her first round match. So it was after the draw.
Before her first round match. So in particular, after the draw is made, we then have these people that were either not able to take the court or did take the court but ultimately retired. Qinwen Zheng, Elena Rybakina, Haley Baptiste, Barbora Krejcikova, Daria Kazatkina, and Bejlek as well. Vondrusova, when did she pull out?
I think it was before the draw.
Before the draw. So, okay. So, anyway, she's had lingering injuries for a year or so, or on and off for 6 months anyway. But the point is a lot of withdrawals. Now, the questions arise because, of course, there were threats made, I think, by the tournament director, initially at least to Swiatek and Sabalenka for not turning up, that they should be fined and that they should have points taken away. How do you feel about that, Nick?
I think this is one of those things that...
Hot potato.
Yeah, one of those things that you've got a lot of vested interest in. Now, I think the players want to play as much as possible. Reality is because they want to try and compete and they want to do well. But as much as possible also needs to be manageable in terms of their physicality, in terms of what they can produce all year round. Tennis as a whole wants their stars fit. If you talk about the tours, they want their stars fully fit so they can play, but they also want them playing as often as possible. And you've got the tournament who want to sell tickets, and so those players need to show up. And when players need to rest, the tournaments feel screwed over because they want to be able to, they've marketed everything based on players showing up. So there's a lot of different things. The tournaments want them to play, the players want to manage their schedules. I think a lot of the names you've mentioned aren't massive surprises given how much they've played.
So are we pushing them too much? Are they playing too much? Are we saying that they should play less?
The players are saying they are, and I trust the players ultimately in that. I think players are saying, look, they have to be ready and prepared, and like I think this go thing for 11 months, I can't think of any other sport that requires that of their athletes. However, let's look at this context. I would be interested. I think this conversation is going to be much more relevant if we see a bunch of people pulling out of Miami. If we have the same level of withdrawals pulling out of Miami a week after Indian Wells, because I would imagine a lot of these players are pushing through to play Miami. Same thing for Madrid and Rome. Not quite the same for Canada and Cincinnati. I think a lot of players tend to miss Canada and invest in Cincinnati a week after. So you don't see that phenomenon. Or Wuhan gets a lot of withdrawals as well. Dubai and Wuhan are very similar in that they're both 1,000 at a point in the calendar after a previous 1,000 where there's not much on the line. There isn't a slam to warm up for. There aren't big tournaments and big events and big money to be won in the same way in the future coming up. So
I also think how many 1,000s do we have? 10 or 11 on the women's side?
10.
I think you sort of like 1,000s should be, and they are pretty special. And I think you sort of do devalue them by having 10.
You probably do.
Because what happens then is players go, you know what? Yes, Indian Wells is special. Yes, Rome may be my home country, or Cincinnati might be if you're from the US or whatever, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, all the players are going, you know what? I need to be ready for this Grand Slam. I need to be ready for this particular 1,000 if that's a favorite of mine. And if you're not from the Middle East, and if you're not from maybe Spain, and therefore Madrid perhaps, and so on and so forth. If you're not from Canada, if you're Arina Sabalenka and you're going, I want to be peaking for the US Open, and I think the best way I can do that is by playing Cincinnati 1 week off, and then US Open, then you're going to do that, and so on and so forth. And so are these players right now. They're thinking, I want to peak for Indian Wells. I want to peak perhaps for Miami, and I can't play the I'm also a top 10 player, so I'm also in the semi-finals or the final of the Australian Open. I'm also probably going to be at a similar stage of both of these 1,000s back to back, and then I'm getting on a plane and I'm flying across the world to Indian Wells, and then I'm getting on a plane and flying across to Miami, which is also a lengthy distance, one side of the US to the other, and then you've just and then we don't want players injured, of course, and so on and so forth.
Here's where I'm at with the schedule. I think what you're kind of trying to do is every sport is trying to get their biggest athletes in front of as many people as often as possible. And I think you do it too often, you burn your players out, which is what tennis is risking doing right now. And if you don't do it enough, people are going to lose interest. So there's got to be a balance. I am a big proponent of scheduling it so you have a big tournament every 2 weeks, and then the 2 weeks in between is are 2 weeks off for the top players. So you put 500s and 250s in that gap. I think that would be the solution, because it's a bit like how Formula One schedules itself. Usually it's like a race every 2 weeks, and ultimately Formula One, in terms of a big global circus that kind of goes around and you have the same big names, the same names every week, is what I think tennis is trying to get to. It's what a lot of sports is trying to get to in terms of its structure. So I think learning from that and doing it every 2 weeks, I think that gives players time to go and recharge, recuperate, rest, do rehab, work on things in their game in between tournaments, and then you've got 2 weeks of top player action. And I think fans and casual fans would also get into that routine. It wouldn't be too disruptive to tennis itself. How that would look, I've got 2 different ideas, and I'm working through how that would look like, and I'm hoping to maybe publish something about it at some point. But that's kind of where I'm at. Is I think it's trying to find that balance between don't burn out the players, but make sure we've still got plenty of tennis without devaluing anything either, because I think every 2 weeks doesn't devalue the kind of the specialness of those titles, and definitely not the slams. The slams should always remember the peak. I think slams should always be first to win 7 matches, and 1000 should be first to win 6 matches. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is we've just got to find this balance. I think Kirit is right. We shouldn't have 2 1000s in a row. I think that's too much. So I think there's a lot of different things going on here, of which the schedule is one. So at the Homer and Achilles point, I'm actually talking about having 2 week 1000. So 2 weeks on, then do a 2 weeks on, have 2 weeks off for the top players, then do a 2 week 1000, keep going. And some 1000s are going to lose out on that idea. Tough. So
I prefer probably. Ideally, I'd love to have 8. I think 8 1000s. I think.
Yeah, which you could still do with that system. It wouldn't still be 10 in that scenario. Someone's going to lose it. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what I would.
No, I don't think it will. But what is giving me hope is, I don't know if you've seen the news, that actually it's very appropriate that Jessica Pegula won this tournament, because
I did see the news. Yeah.
Jessica Pegula is going to be heading up an initiative that the WTA have set up to consult with players about building a much more sustainable calendar. And I think she's the best person to pick, because she is a top player, but she has one of the heaviest schedules of the top players traditionally. She's a player who likes to play a lot. And so she can find, I think I would trust her to find the balance that's right for everyone across all rankings, and the tournaments as well. So I'm interested to see what she and that council, that tour architecture council, come up with, because I think, again, they could come up with a better idea than the one I've just had, and that will find the perfect balance between the players and the tournaments, because ultimately that's what the pressure point is. It's the marketing versus the realistic expectations of players. So I'm interested to see what they find and what they come up with for next season.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't maybe have a huge amount of optimism, but we'll see. I think less is more. And I did have one other thing to say on this, but I'm not sure what it was. But yeah, less is more as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, we'll see if this new council brings up any good ideas for 2027 in particular. Okay, let's look towards Merida. That is coming up next week. I think it's the only tournament on the main tour. Am I right?
No, there's another one. Austin is a 250.
Austin 250. Okay. Well, let's have a quick look at Merida. I will have a quick look.
Pegula's the top seed of the Austin 250, but I highly doubt she's going to play it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay, it's a 250, but for similar reasons. We sort of see this a lot throughout the tour, and I understand why. Okay, just having a quick look at the first round. Of course, Paolini has a bye. This is in Merida. Sloane Stephens is there, going to be playing against Zarosua. Merida, by the way, that's in Mexico?
It is a Mexican tournament,
Mexico.
yes.
So that'll do a home outing. Katie Bolter as well, who's sort of found some form in recent weeks. She's going to be playing Haddad Maya. I think Osorio, though, against Janice Chen is probably the match that I find most interesting, because I think Janice Chen is arguably one of the most interesting players to watch on the tour. The winner of this particular encounter will play the winner of the aforementioned Bolter and Haddad Maya. What do you make of Janice Chen and her sort of breakout 6 months, I would argue, on the main tour?
Oh, well, I'm excited by it. Again, it's another market for tennis to break into.
Definitely.
If we're talking about Alex Ayala, Filipino fans, the Indonesian fans are going crazy for Janice Chen.
There's a lot more annoying. If you're annoyed by that, like, group of Filipino fans, there's a load more coming your way. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah, looking forward to when those two play each other. It's going to be like a football.
I mean,
match.
they've played each other a few times, but yeah, or a couple of times anyway. And I think Chen might have won one and Ayala won the other.
Yeah.
Oh, they played alongside each other, of course, in doubles, and they played once, I think, at the back end of last year. But anyway, go on, carry on.
Yeah. So Janice Chen is actually currently in an interesting situation where she's beating players kind of that are around her ranking, and then she's running into trouble against the elite players, the top players like a Swiatek or a Anisimova. Like, they dismissed
I saw her play
so,
Swiatek a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think Janice Chen has got some development to do in terms of what can she do to play the very, very top of the game, but she's performing well enough to kind of break into that group that's kind of, we were talking about earlier, that's kind of behind, which are where we're going to be seeing players like, I think she can easily play players around her, or at least compete with them. And Osorio's growing as well. Osorio's growing in confidence as well. We're seeing some good runs from her. I think she won the Manila Challenger, the 125K.
Yeah, she won the Philippine Women's Open, yeah.
She's been getting the odd strong win every now and again this season.
Yeah.
So they're both players who are building up towards really, really good results. So yeah, I agree with you. Whilst on paper, Katie Bolter versus Beatrice Haddad-Maia, based on their past CVs, should be the big name clash. Haddad-Maia has not been in form at all, and Bolter has. So I'm expecting Bolter to win there. This one could go either way, because I think this is going to be a battle. I think.
Me too. I think it's 50-50. Both have shown signs. I mean, Chen last week beating Leylah Fernandez and Yastremska, but I could see Yastremska having one of those days where she just hits everything and it doesn't work. I could see as well Chen against Fernandez being a bit more of a grind, and also having very interesting dynamics and rallies, some of which will go Leylah's way, some of which will go Janice's way, and it was a super tight two-setter. But then when Janice was playing Anisimova before the match, and then it turned out to be the case, I just thought this is a bit like Ayala and Coco in a way. I thought this is just going to be too much, and it was 6-1, 6-3 for Anisimova. As for Osorio as well, yeah, I mean, I saw her a couple of her matches in that Philippines Women's Open, the WTA 125 there. And since then, last week in Qatar, the week before last in Qatar, she had some wins there in qualies, and then beat Raducanu via walkover before coming through Siniakova and then going down to Ostapenko. She was going to play she would have had a hell of a calendar, by the way. She was going to play in Romania as well, but she'd have gone Philippines, Romania, Qatar, Merida, and decided to skip Romania, which makes sense. But yeah, she had a bit of a mammoth, sort of quite a mammoth run. She beat Hontamo in 3 sets, and then beat Vekic in 3 sets in the final as well, 7-5 in the third. I think this is super 50-50. I think probably Chen maybe in her career has the slightly higher ceiling. But Chen with that slice, by the way, in the Ash Barty comparisons, I get it. I do get it, but it's not as good as Ash Barty's slice. No. Not yet, anyway. But
no, it's not. It's very different as well. They have very different things.
It's sort of a bit more high and lofted, which tends to be less effective.
It's the thing. You don't get many strong slice backhands on the WTA tour. So, of course, any slice you get will be compared to Ash Barty in the same way as any single-handed backhand on the ATP tour will always be compared to Roger Federer, even though Stan Wawrinka and Dominic Thiem also exist. So, I think that's where we're at. So, I think it's going to be interesting because they're both very strong defensive players. So I think this will be a chance for Chen to use a
Chen
bit
has
more
a
of her
couple of
weaponry.
decent weapons, by the way. Like the
Yeah.
serve is okay, and the forehand is very good, which is
So, I mean,
partly
it's a
what
chance.
she's. So unlike Barty, she's also hoping to set up the forehand with those slices. But
Exactly.
yeah,
So
Chen.
Chen, I think, has the weaponry to do some damage in this match. The question is whether the weaponry is enough to hit through Osorio, and whether Chen's going to get impatient because Osorio is going to get everything back. And I think that's going to define how. I think this match very much is going to hang on what mentality Janice Chen brings to this match. Which, by the way, mentality with players varies from day to day. You don't one player does not approach the same tennis match every single way because life happens and things change. So I am kind of the I am of the view that it's going to come down to Chen's headspace and how she manages this match. If she manages it well, she wins. If she doesn't, I'm backing Osorio to win it. But I think it's still going to go 3, and I think we're going to be in for a long, minimum 2.5 hour match. I reckon for this one.
I'm gonna go Janice Chen, but honestly, that's not much. It's a thin margin. Okay. Just looking at the tournament as a whole, I see this as being a tournament for Jasmine Paolini and Emma Navarro to get their 2026 seasons underway. I saw some good signs from Jasmine in her loss to Alex Ayala in that recent tournament in Dubai. Navarro has been, more off it than on it, I would say, for a few months now, given her high level that she's shown over the previous couple of seasons. I think one of them is winning the title. They are the 1 and 2 seeds. The rest of the tournament doesn't look like it's quite got so many big candidates in it. Where are you at with Navarro or Paolini? You can pick one or both.
Navarro's actually not had a good performance since she won this tournament 12 months ago. So she's got a lot on
it was
the
like
line.
a long time, Navarro. I didn't realize it was that long, but yeah. So Navarro's the reigning champion, is she?
Yes.
Okay.
So
maybe I should be picking her for the title then, really. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
she needs this tournament. Otherwise, she's going to be really scrapping to get her way back up the rankings, really. She's definitely going to be dropping out. I would imagine she'll be dropping out the top 20. I haven't checked the live rankings on it, or the rankings for that. I think I agree with you on, Paolini's not started the season great. It's not been terrible, but it's not been quite the level you'd want from a top 10 player. So she kind of needs this tournament. And you would imagine, given the draw, that she should be the heavy favourite. So, yeah, this tournament may well be on Jasmine Paolini's racket to get some match wins and get some reps in. Having said that, there's plenty of dangerous players in here that I could see, upsetting the apple cart a bit. Katie Bolter, I think, is starting to come into a really strong form and could do something. Jazz Chen, I think, could beat Jasmine Paolini. Diana Stramska, if she catches fire. Zeynep Sonnes, if she catches fire. Marie Buskova's not beyond doing something crazy here. Or even Yulia Putin-Seva is in there. So there are, Jasmine Paolini should be the favourite on paper for every single match. And, if things go according to plan, she's winning this title. But things aren't going to plan for Jasmine Paolini, and there are actually quite a few disruptors in this draw. So that's where I'm looking at, is who are the disruptors, and how is Paolini going to handle it. And I think this tournament and who wins it is going to come down to how well Jasmine Paolini handles it and how much pressure she puts on herself to get a result here. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Got it. I think I'm just going to go for Navarro as the reigning champion, but to be honest with you, I think Paolini has an excellent chance as well, which is kind of hedging the bets and sitting on the fence, and I get it. Okay, moving quickly over to Austin. Pegula as yet hasn't pulled out. She is due to play Shramkova in the first round, but as I say, I'd be
You're going to love this draw,
she...
John, if you haven't seen it yet, because there's a few interesting names in it.
I'm looking down the draw, and they haven't, at least on this page, they haven't filled in the qualifiers. We've got Venus Williams against Tomljanovic. Tomljanovic, of course, is the one that ended the career of Serena Williams. I mean, that sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it? It was the last match that Serena Williams played was against Tomljanovic, wasn't it, at the 2022 US Open? So maybe some family revenge there can be formed in the form of Venus. Jovic is in the draw as well. I'm guessing that's the bigger storyline that you thought I'd be drawn to, right?
Yes, Venus Williams being in the draw, and also Bianca Andreescu is in the draw as a wild card.
Of course, and also against Dalma Galfi as well. I'm looking at Galfi as being She's a very interesting player. Andreescu, didn't she win an ITF maybe recently?
Yeah,
and how
she
long
won
is
it like around Australia.
Didn't she win an ITF recently? I saw somewhere on social media in the last few weeks.
Yeah,
Andreescu, maybe an ITF 35 or something like that.
she did.
Anyway, but she's up against Damagami. When was the last time you had Andreescu on the tour?
Oh, now you're testing me. I want to say around US Open, maybe.
Did she play the US Open? Did she?
Oh, okay.
She
This might be where we're not It's been a while, guys. It's been a while.
She
there we go.
did play actually more recently than that. I didn't realize she played in Japan in the Tokyo Open, or was it Japan Open? And she lost to Mboko. Who did she go on to win the title? Mboko, that one, I think.
In Japan, no, she won. I think she went on to win Hong Kong. I think that might have been the tournament
Mboko
that
beat Ialo, I think, in the
won.
quarterfinals, and I thought she went on to win the title in Tokyo, but I could be wrong. Anyway.
I thought Tokyo was the one Rebecca won, but anyway.
Yeah, you might be right. Mboko played Rebecca, I think, and Rebecca beat her. Yeah, you're right. So anyway,
I think Rebecca Bencic
chasing those WTA points to get in the WTA finals that she'd go on to win. But either way, yeah, still, Andreescu has been off the tour for a little while. I thought it had been longer actually, but she played a few matches in Asia, as I just highlighted. She did as well. I think you're right. I think she did play the US Open. I just don't recall it that strongly, but let me see. Oh, no, she didn't. No, she played. Looks like she played. She pulled out of Canada. Oh, no, she played Krejcikova in Canada, but then pulled out of her match with Andreeva in the next round. So she beats Krejcikova, then pulls out of her match with Andreeva. She then does go to Asia, but she loses to Bondar, another Hungarian, by the way, in the first round at the China Open. Then over to Wuhan, she lost to Zakharova in qualies there. I wonder what her current ranking is, and we touched upon her Japanese period, and now she's going to be playing in Austin. Well, fingers crossed for her return to the tour. Dal McGalfy is going to be hitting that ball pretty hard at her. I will say that. In fact, it's going to be an interesting scenario with both of those guys backing the ball at each other as hard as they can. Obviously not at each other, more towards the lines, of course. But that'll be an intriguing clash, and that is exciting. That aside, is there anything else in Austin that you'd like to address?
No, I think we've covered it. I think, the Venus Williams Aya Tomljanovic match is going to be an interesting one, particularly for the Williams fans. Can Tomljanovic beat both Williams sisters, or will Venus get a win in Austin? I think there's not much more to say. I think if I'm looking at the draw,
it's fun. Always fun when Lulu's around. Jovic, of course, could be eyeing her. Would it be her first title? I think on the tour
in 2026, but not the first title. She won Guadalajara last year, which is also a 500.
Yes.
No, there's a 250. Yeah. So I think Iva Jovic is the favorite because not because I think that I think that Jessica Pegula is not going to be flying from winning Dubai to try and play the first round in Austin. I think she's going to pull out. If she doesn't pull out, then let's see how much effort. If Pegula puts full effort in, then she's the favorite. But I don't think she's going to play. And on that basis, I think that Jovic is the title favorite. But I will throw out one wild card pick, which isn't really a wild card because she is seeded, but she's playing really, really well at the moment. Third seed Wang Junyu.
Okay. I'm going to go for my
someone else is quite strongly. Sorry,
Alicia Parks would be my sort of outsider-ish to keep an eye on.
Probably more of a genuine outsider. So but I'm looking at on paper, I would be going with either Jovic or Wang Junyu to win this one.
All right, I'm going to bookend this episode by telling everyone that it's now Arsenal 3, Spurs 1. Many people, of course, will be watching and listening to this after the result from North London has come in. So the latest score after 67 minutes is thus, but you'll know, of course, because you'll be in the future, guys. We're in the past. Some people say we're stuck in the past. But anyway, that is a topic perhaps for another day. Nick, huge thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome, as always. Always fun doing these episodes.
And to everybody else, enjoy the next 7 days or so in women's tennis, but you're allowed to enjoy men's tennis, you're allowed to enjoy junior tennis, you're allowed to enjoy things, including this football match unfolding in front of me, if that is your bag. And to everybody else, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.